rain hammered the steel roofs of the transport ship as it cut through the freezing waters of the North Sea, carrying hundreds of captured German officers toward a land they believed they understood, a land they mocked in speeches, dismissed in strategy rooms, and underestimated on every battlefield. For years, German propaganda had painted Britain as weak, a dying empire, a nation of tired aristocrats and soft civilians. But as the ship neared the British coast, the officers would soon discover a truth that would ripple through their pride like a blade. The officers stood crowded on the deck, their uniforms worn from the desert and their faces still sun-scorched from Tunisia. Among them was General Klaus Hoffmann, a man whose icy arrogance had survived every defeat. He tightened his overcoat as he stared across the fog-thick horizon. "So this is the island fortress," he muttered. "Let us see what kind of men guard it." What awaited them was nothing they imagined. Arrival, the first shock. When the ship docked at the port, the German officers braced themselves for the sight of thin, starving soldiers, the same type of British troops they had captured in North Africa. But instead, their eyes widened in disbelief. Lined along the pier stood a formation of British military police unlike any soldiers they had ever seen. They were giants. Not metaphorical giants, literal giants. Broad-shouldered men towering over 6 feet tall, muscles packed into heavy wool uniforms, faces stern and carved by cold winds. They lifted crates alone that would normally require 4 men. One soldier swung a steel cargo hatch open with a single push, the metal groaning like it feared him. General Hoffmann felt something he had not felt since the early days of the war: intimidation. "These cannot be the same British soldiers we saw in Africa," Major Vogel whispered, his voice shaking. "No," Hoffmann answered quietly. "These are something else." The walk of humiliation. As the Germans were marched off the ship, a strange, unsettling silence filled the air. The British guards did not shout, did not insult, did not even glare. They simply watched with calm, unbreakable confidence, and that confidence was more frightening than any hatred. General Hoffmann noticed how their boots thundered against the wooden pier with the rhythm of trained athletes. Their hands were huge, like they were built not by war, but by a lifetime of hard labor. Mining, farming, shipyards, industries untouched by bombardment. These were men shaped by decades of steady food, stable childhoods, and physical work. Germany had no such luxury anymore. When the officers passed by a young MP tightening a rope, they saw his sleeve stretch around a bicep like a coiled steel cable. The officer beside Hoffmann muttered, "If such men had fought in North Africa, we would never have advanced an inch." Transport to the camp. The convoy of trucks moved across the British countryside, green fields untouched by war, rolling hills that stretched like waves, farms thriving under the summer sun. The Germans watched through barred windows as civilians walked past with full baskets of bread, fish, vegetables, and cheese. It was cruel in its simplicity. Britain had abundance. Germany had hunger. And hunger breaks nations long before battlefields do. As the trucks stopped outside Featherston Park Camp, the largest POW camp in northern England, the officers braced themselves. Guard towers loomed high above, and inside them stood MPs even larger than the ones at the docks, men built like stone fortresses. Rifles held as lightly as pencils. Vogel whispered, "God, are these even humans?" General Hoffmann said nothing. The camp of giants inside the camp, the humiliation continued in subtle, devastating ways. During roll call, a German officer attempted to assert dominance with sarcasm. "We are prisoners, not cattle." A British MP leaned down so far down he almost had to kneel to meet the man's eyes. "Then behave like officers," he said calmly, without raising his voice. The officer swallowed hard and stepped back. Another day, a crate filled with metal tools fell near the barracks. 2 German officers attempted to lift it but failed. A single British MP walked over, grabbed the crate, and lifted it with one hand. One hand, without a sound. The Germans stared, their pride crumbling inch by inch. Whispers of the truth at night inside the barracks, the officers gathered and spoke in hushed tones. "These men are unlike anything we faced," said Captain Reinhold. "They eat well. They grew over generations in peace. That is their strength." Weber, the quiet observer, answered softly, "We were told Britain was weak, but look around us. Look at these guards." Hoffman clenched his jaw. "Strength built in silence," he muttered. They had believed for years that the British were fragile, but fragility does not build men like these. Training ground revelation. One morning, the prisoners were marched past an open training field. The sight carved itself into their memories forever. 20 British MPs were undergoing physical drills. They sprinted across the field with sandbags heavier than machine gun mounts. They climbed ropes thicker than a man's wrist. They flipped logs the size of trees. Their movements were disciplined, efficient, and terrifying in their controlled power. Every thud of their boots felt like a hammer strike to German pride. Hoffman whispered, "If these men had been deployed in Europe." Weber finished the sentence for him. Berlin would have fallen in a month. The psychological collapse within weeks. German confidence shattered. Their worldview built on propaganda and arrogance collapsed under the weight of a simple truth. The British had not shown their full strength on the battlefield. The soldiers the Germans captured in Africa were starving, dehydrated, outnumbered, and out of supplies. But Britain itself, its homeland, had a different breed of men, preserved by isolation, fed by industry, protected by distance. These were the real Brits. And the realization humiliated the German officers more deeply than any defeat. One evening, Hoffman overheard 2 MPs speaking casually as they carried steel beams. "I reckon we could lift tanks if the ration lads cooked better," one joked. "Tanks, no," the other laughed. "But maybe a small German general." The officers didn't know whether to feel insulted or grateful they weren't noticed enough to be feared. The final lesson. Months passed, and a strange transformation spread through the German ranks. Their arrogance evaporated. Their aggression softened. For the first time, they were forced to face the truth. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength stands silently, holding a crate with one hand. General Hoffman, once proud and unshakable, wrote in his diary, "We believed we were the superior race, yet the men guarding us could crush us with their bare hands, and they do not even boast. I have never known power more humbling." He closed the journal with trembling hands. The war had taught him battles, but captivity taught him truth. The giant British soldiers did not defeat Germany with fists. They defeated Germany with what Germany lacked: food, stability, health, generations of peace, quiet confidence, discipline without cruelty, strength without arrogance. And this hidden story, buried for decades, became one of the greatest ironies of World War II. The Germans had marched in believing they were the superior race. They returned home knowing they were wrong.